everyone, and thank you for tuning into another episode where I'm talking with some of the composers off of my upcoming album, Delta Waves. Today we have Ryan, who has zoomed in all the way from Texas to talk with me. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Drew. It's great to see you.
Yeah, so we're here to talk a little about your piece, Snapped. Now, I know the compositional process for this piece took absolutely forever. So if you want to talk about the years and years it took for you to write this piece, I would love to hear like kind of the composition process behind it, why and why it took so long to write.
Wow, that's great setup. Yeah, so it took
Thanks.
24 hours to write this piece. Um, and actually less than that because I slept for 5 hours during that 24 hours. And I also
So
like
yeah.
stopped to eat. Um, and then I went on a walk. Um, but yeah, so it was part of this thing called the Capriccio Project,
Mhm.
started by Drew Hosler, which I
Yes.
think you've done before, but you brought to the University
Mhm.
of Michigan in October. Is that what it was?
Oh man, I'm trying to even remember now. I think it happened in October and the concerts like premiered in November. It was because I had done something similar at my undergrad. I didn't start it. We called it 24/24. It was the exact same thing, 24 hours to write a piece, 24 hours to learn a piece, and then there was a big concert. And I wanted to do kind of a Zoom friendly version. So it was 24 hours to write, 24 hours to record, and then we did like a little web premiere. But
Right.
and I didn't want to take the name 24/24 just because I wanted to try and be original and I wanted a
Sure.
cute musicy name. So I Googled, I kid you not, I Googled like music terms and I was just sitting there like scrolling down and I was like, Capriccio. That's cute. Let's go with that.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, it's a very good name for, I mean, that's what all those pieces ended up being. Um, right. And so the process was basically like, so at the very beginning of the 24-hour period, I found out as like solo tenor saxophone, and it was you. And I was like, all right, great. I haven't written for saxophone in, aside from like wind ensemble, I hadn't written for like chamber saxophone or solo saxophone in a couple of years. Um, Maybe a few years, I don't even know. But I was excited because I was like, I'm at the University of Michigan. He's going to be amazing. Like these saxophonists can do anything. And I like sent you like a very early sketch, and you're like, okay, I'm at the grocery store, but I'll record it when I'm back. And then you recorded it when you were back, and it was like it was like really fast, really notey, and you just did it all. I was like, well, shit, I got to do something that's like going to be like interesting to him at least. It's like a little bit challenging. It's not like just a one-off piece that he records in 24 hours and forgets. Um, so the piece ended up just being like a ton of notes.
I
Because
remember
I was
when you
like,
first sent it and I opened up the full PDF. I looked at page 6. And for anyone watching, page 6 is literally 30-second notes for the entire page. I was like, all right, let's do this.
yeah. Uh, I mean, to be fair, it starts at quarter note equals 40, but
Yes, yes.
it
It,
accelerates
it,
to
it
as
was
fast
scary at
as
first.
possible. Uh, yeah. Um, and so I was like, and as I was writing this like really fast material, it was sort of this kind of like free writing style of composition where I was just like writing left to right, which I almost never do. Most of the time, I'm like really reflective about the ideas I have and like all the possibilities of where they could go. But I was like, I don't have time for that. So I was writing left to right basically. And because it was just like this flurry of notes, I was like, I feel like I've like kind of lost it. I've like kind of snapped. Um, which is like one of the definitions of snapped that inspired the title. Um, but then the other definition that also inspired it is like I like the double meaning that it can mean like you've kind of lost it, you've kind of gone a little bit insane, but also that like if someone is able to achieve this, like to express these notes with such virtuosity, that they've also snapped. Like you could say she snapped, um, and that's so I like that double meaning. And then it was that word itself, I was like, well, what if he actually snaps? And so like I remember I sent you, this was just like Facebook Messenger. I was like, um, I looked at a saxophone fingering chart and I was like, well, these notes he can play with one hand. So his other hand is free. And he has a neck strap, so he can do anything. He can like wave, he can I was like, he's gonna snap. So I asked you and you're like, you can do it. And you're like, yeah, I can do it. I can do way weirder stuff than that. I was like, all right.
Another piece on the album has me jump in the air actually and stomp on the ground. Like I'm stomping, and then I actually jump in frustration. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Snapping is
There's lots
nothing.
of like physical theatricality of going insane on this album. That's what you're saying basically.
Exactly. That's, I mean, when I think tenor saxophone, I think just losing it. That's just me, I guess. Snapping,
Right.
so to speak.
Um, yeah, but also there's this tune that emerged in the process of writing um, all these flurry of notes, and so it's not just like a piece that is going insane, but I think there are moments of tenderness in it, moments of like
Mhm.
um, real emotional, or it felt very emotional to me to write it, um,
Mhm.
like on a very local level. Um,
Yeah, I would agree. It, like there are some very, very pretty moments in it. Like I think I absolutely love the theme because like there's this introduction snapping section and then there's actually a little theme and variations in there.
yeah,
And then goes back to the snapping section at the end. But no, I think the theme is very pretty and I really, really enjoy it.
but it was funny in that process that like the theme emerged after the variation. I wrote the variations first, and then
Oh,
I was
okay.
like the theme was like
Huh.
I needed to distill it so that it
Mhm.
was legible, like comprehensible as something
Mhm.
other than a flurry. It's like I wanted it to be this like totem that you could hear, and then it comes back and it takes you in a different direction, and then it's
Mhm.
framed on both ends by these snapping sections.
Mhm.
And another aspect is um, this is a very visual piece. Like I
Mhm.
envisioned
Yes.
it from the very beginning as a piece because, especially in October, but still now in February, like um, we're in the era of streaming pieces, of Zoom pieces.
Mhm.
Every piece you play is a video piece,
Mhm.
um, practically. So I wanted to use the snapping and then also the snapping to control these like kind of very vivid eye motions.
Mhm.
Um, so the piece starts. I don't know. You should do an impersonation of how the piece starts.
Yeah, because you're supposed to start off, what does it say? It's start with your eyes closed, completely still, left hand on saxophone, slowly lift your right hand up to your ear. Because when we did the recording of it, it was very much I and you open my eyes really, really
Yeah,
wide. Because
right.
after the premiere, it was very shortly after I had recorded it for Capriccio, you sent me a message asking if like you want to record, you want to play it again for another concert at U of M.
Yeah,
And I was going to campus that day, so we just rented one of the halls and recorded it again. And you actually, like you were saying, you really took to that visual recorded element of it.
right. Yeah, and that was one great thing about like it being something beyond just this 24-hour project is we got to
Mhm.
workshop it a little bit.
Yes,
See
yeah,
what
we made some
changes to make.
changes, just some things that just to make the piece a little easier on my part.
Sure. Yeah. Um, and I was like making you be more theatrical too. Like look
Mhm.
straight into the camera whenever you and I say that ironically because I'm on Zoom and I'm looking at myself, which I always do when I'm on Zoom instead of looking at the camera.
I know. I'm trying to do that. I'm new to these like recording Zoom videos too. I completely get it.
I mean, I teach a class at Michigan and I'm like looking at myself most of the time. And it's like I feel guilty, but I think everyone else in the room is doing the same thing.
Oh, I'm sure. That's how I do it at least.
Yeah. But I was like, so um, you have to look straight in the camera, and it's a very close shot is how it opens, and then
Mhm.
these big wide shots, and the close shots come in back at the end. Um,
Yeah,
so
if
the
you're interested
visual
in checking
element,
out that video, it's on Brian's YouTube page.
it is on my
Or
YouTube
a
page.
little score you did it with a score and everything.
It's a score follower video, and the video of the recording in the hall.
Yes, it looks fantastic and it's way beyond my iMovie editing skills.
I did it in Premiere. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
No, I mean that was a very fun project, and I really enjoyed getting the chance to record it and to workshop it with you in person. Because when it's writing in 24 hours and learning in 24 hours, we don't get that much of a chance to workshop it beyond me sending back just some short recordings of me
right.
practicing it. But it was me just sitting here playing it over and over again, trying to get it up to tempo for the eventual premiere of it.
Yeah, I should say another thing about the process of 24 hours and like just the creative process in general, so much is just like deciding what not to do, like
Mm-hmm.
having an idea and then getting rid of it,
Mm-hmm.
which in 24 hours, again, you don't have that much time to do. So you just
Mm-hmm.
have to commit really early. And that was actually a really important lesson for me. And it was also a bit of a confidence booster that I could like come up with these ideas, commit to them quickly, and be
Mm-hmm.
happy with them even now months
Yes.
after the fact. Um, which like, because it's so easy to just rack your brain for months, years
Mm-hmm.
over an idea and still never be happy with it. So there's some kind of like the quality of an idea is not directly proportional to the amount of time you spend on it. That's something that
Yes.
I think about now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm also curious, you mentioned earlier that you have written a little more for saxophone. What is your relationship with saxophone and saxophonists been in the past, or even looking forward in the future?
Yeah, I love saxophone. I had never written for solo tenor sax before. That
Mm-hmm.
was something that was interesting to me, just because I mean, you're making this album of solo tenor sax music sort of as an evangelist for the tenor saxophone, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
great. Um, but whenever I was like, well, I like alto and I like soprano and Barry is like cool, but what is tenor?
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized tenor is also really great. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I have written a few quartets.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a piece. I did a string quartet when I was a freshman in college, and then I transcribed it for saxophone quartet,
Okay.
um, and entered it into the Donald Cinta Quartet
Mm-hmm.
competition. I guess
Mm-hmm.
they're just now the Cinta Quartet. Um,
Yes, yes, they dropped the
they dropped
Donald
the
from it.
Donald, and they picked the piece to play, and then they commissioned another quartet. Um, so the first piece they liked enough to commission a new piece, and then they premiered
Mm-hmm.
that. Also, both of those were premiered in Ann Arbor, ironically, like years before I ever lived there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I also did a quartet for a high school group
Okay.
called Tree, which is this, they have to read from the score, um, sort of a very beautiful 3-minute nostalgic thing. And I've
Mm-hmm.
also written solo soprano sax, 2 solo soprano sax and piano pieces.
Okay.
Uh, but I think that's, I mean, I grew up playing in wind ensembles, originally euphonium player. So the
Mm-hmm.
saxophone was always there and was always like, well, we're the ones that aren't an orchestra. So we have like this like sort of
Mm-hmm.
alliance.
No, you completely understand our pain of orchestras only using us for bolero, and that's really
Right.
it.
Bolero and like symphonic dances and all that.
Yeah, there's a few, but no, you totally understand our pain as saxophonists.
Right. And it's like euphonium is used so rarely too, like the
Mhm.
planets, sometimes
Yes,
a bit
yeah,
low.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, along with the bass oboe and the planets.
right.
um,
But I love
no.
the saxophone. Um,
Mhm.
and I love how I always describe saxophonists as thirsty, which like
Mhm.
sounds a little bit demeaning, but it's not at all. It's like
Mhm.
saxophonists are so thirsty for new music,
Yes.
but not just for like, I think it's for like really good reasons.
Mhm.
Like they're so interested in sharing their love for the instrument with everybody
Mhm.
else.
Yeah, I mean, we're such a new instrument that we don't have that body of repertoire that the clarinet or the flute or the oboe has. Like we're still very, very
But in
young,
some
which
ways,
is
like the clarinet and the flute don't have the same body of new repertoire that the saxophone has.
exactly. I would agree with that completely. I feel like like I always say something very similar. I say we're very hungry for new music. We're very we try
100%.
and strive to commission and premiere works by living composers, and that's something I really wanted to showcase in this album is what the 21st century tenor saxophone has to offer. The oldest piece is from 2007. The newest is going to be completed later this year. So it really is just a
Snapshot of now.
conglomeration of everything.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that's really what I wanted. Like the tenor saxophone is so much more than because when people think tenor, it's kind of just that forgotten instrument. Like you said, everyone loves soprano. Everyone has to play alto. Barry's really, really cool and has fun stuff. And then the tenor's just kind of in the middle playing the third, so to speak.
Right. It's like
So,
John Coltrane and like what
yes,
else?
exactly. Yeah, people know it for jazz, but when you think classical saxophone, you think, oh, the Glazunov Concerto. You don't, and then other alto pieces, but you never think of tenor pieces. So
Right.
that's with this album, I really wanted to showcase that there are contemporary tenor saxophone works. And they're all so different. There's everything from no mouthpiece to incredibly tonal with piano, and everything in between.
Great.
But uh, yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about with the piece? Anything you want to plug to anyone listening?
I will say that one reason I decided to sign up for the Capriccio project is like I was in the middle of because like nobody really has like 24 hours to just take off.
Oh,
Like
yeah, of course.
like like I was in the middle of writing this documentary score for documentary. It's now on Amazon Prime called Honor Guard, and um, it was a very gratifying project to work on. But on in another way, like I was having to write music that had to work for that picture.
Mhm.
Um, so I wanted to take a break and just write whatever I wanted. But
Mhm.
it's like Snapped would not work as a documentary score. Like, well,
Yeah.
maybe for a certain type of documentary, but like, um, so that was actually one really gratifying thing about it. It was like I got to like steal time from myself to do the
Mhm.
things that I wanted to. Um, and apparently that's what I wanted to do.
No, I'm so glad that you feel that way. Like honestly, that was one of the reasons I wanted to start the Capriccio project, but also because like I feel like we don't get to socialize in the same way we would in a normal year. We're not all on campus.
Yeah.
Like, and this I feel
Hello.
like was a way for me to, oh yes, like I feel like this was a way for us to, like, for people to meet. Like you and I probably would not have met had it not been for the Capriccio project.
Exactly.
And I was able to meet so many other performers and composers and work and just talk with them to actually set up these videos, pair people together. And I really hope that other collaborations are working very similarly to us, where it doesn't stop after that 48-hour period. Like this is a way for us all to network in a time where we're all stuck in our house.
For sure.
Like I feel like I mean, so many of us had so many cancellations with concerts, premieres, and whatnot. And
God, yeah.
this, I wanted this to be just a time
Yeah, I
for,
also just wanted to make a
fun.
friend. That's also why I signed up for it. And now I have
Oh,
a
100%.
yeah,
Like, yeah, that's something else we don't even talk about. Like it's like I feel like in this field we can build friendships and just be friends with people because we want to be. It doesn't all have to be
there's a thought.
for a project. I know. I know it's crazy and something nobody talks about.
Right. I have a question for you. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
so you're playing this like these programs at the
Mhm,
NASA conferences and these other conferences
mhm,
to promote the album, and
mhm,
every time you're putting Snapped last. Why is
mhm.
it last?
I because I looked for the NASA conferences. I'm doing a very similar program for all of them. I can tell you the program because I have my iPad here. I'm doing a work by Akira Ito in motion. I'm doing first of Andrew Mead's Five Etudes, and then I'm doing Nilüfer Iravani's Vision, and in addition to your piece. And I sat there and I looked at all the pieces and I tried to find an order. And I just think the ending to this piece, I really like it as an ending to the concert. I think
And it's also the end of
I
the
think
album,
this piece
right?
works very well. What?
It's also the end of the album, right?
I haven't totally decided
Oh,
at
okay.
this point the order. In all
Got it.
honesty, I'm kind of leaning towards having it be the end
No
of the
pressure.
album, but I think I think it just works very well as an ending. Like a beginning or an ending. I think the beginning and ending to this piece are so memorable.
Mm,
And especially just given the nature of how these conferences are. Normally these conferences, are we get to mingle, hang out with people, go to concerts, go to restaurants and bars afterwards.
right.
But it's all online now. And sure, we can chat over Zoom with a bunch of people on screen, but is that the same as being in person? And I feel like
No, I'm
I've
wearing shorts right
snapped in
now.
a way. Yeah, and I feel like I've snapped and just like I want these conferences, and I'm so glad they're happening because
Yeah,
so many things have just been canceled. So I'm really glad there's stuff happening, and because I've been snapping from just a from all of this that has been happening.
yeah. Well, it'll get
But
better. But
yes, it will, and this album will be nice. It will be a nice way for
yeah, it's so
hopefully.
exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm beyond excited for it. It's something I've wanted to do for a very long time, and I really wanted it to be all tenor. I knew it needed to be because there are not that many all tenor saxophone albums, and especially all tenor saxophone and all 21st century albums, which are the two things I'm super passionate about.
Right.
Um, but if anyone here is interested in finding out, that segues very nicely into what I was going to say. If anyone here's interested in checking out more about this album, be sure to go to andrewhosler.com/delta waves. There you can find out what other pieces will be on the album. You can find out a track listing for the album. You can find interviews with composers. You can find out more information about the Kickstarter. And if you're able to donate, that would be fantastic. And you can find out a lot more on that website. So be sure to check that out. And where can people find you, Ryan?
My website is my last name, lindveit.com. And I'm also on all the social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Yeah, just reach out.
TikTok, yes. The new way to network in 2021, TikTok.
Please don't reach out
Great.
to me on TikTok.
Well, great. So thank you so much for meeting with me.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was my
great getting to
pleasure.
chat. Yes, and thank you all so much for watching.